In 2006, one morning as usual, loud traffic horns woke up the sleeping city of Gangnam. The blaring sound of car horns creates a stuffy atmosphere. Looking down from above, cars seemed to cover the entire street. At a certain office in the city center, employees panicked and reported department head Com's funds had been withdrawn. The head of the department turned around, surprised. He asked, "How much?" The employee sweatily replied, "About 20,000 shares." The head of the department seemed to have predicted something. He raised his glasses, calculatingly. Someone noticed and burnt his upper hand. The employee still had a worried face and asked the manager, "What should I do? What else to do? There will be an announcement soon. It's best to split up now." The department head majestically pointed his finger and ordered. Looking away, he exclaimed, "I don't know who they are, but they are indeed lucky people." As soon as he returned, the department head immediately ordered all employees to be careful, because we don't know when another lucky person like him will appear. If we fail now, we will be dead. On the outside, he appeared calm, but inside the department head was somewhat trembling. He was curious about who that guy was. It seemed like they knew everything we were planning, like a ghost. The scene changes to a certain apartment. The sound of typing on a keyboard comes from inside. The closer we got to the apartment, the more intense the sound of typing became. A teenage boy enthusiastically typing on a computer appeared in the scene. His face was full of excitement. The corners of his lips kept curling up. Thinking for a moment. 46 million in 3 days is truly a number that few people can earn. Thinking about the amount of money, his excitement continued to increase. The screen shows a stock index that is constantly increasing. The teenager thought, "This is money that I have never had in my entire life." Even though he thought like that, greed took possession of him. But this was still not enough. I was still not satisfied. The corners of my lips gradually lowered. My face became serious. I haven't really started yet. Looking at the stock index up and down on the screen, he came up with a bold idea. Maybe I should play a little more. I'm still in need. In a small room in the countryside, where the summer heat has not yet cooled down, the 18-year-old young man, Jang Taizan, in the old, dilapidated room as it is now, was given a new life and looked forward to a new future. Someday, Taizan himself will write a legend that he will become a rich man, holding many properties in this prosperous city of Gangnam. In 2020, on the Han River, the image of a man pretending to approach the railing. That's Taizan from 14 years later, feeling extremely depressed. I'm about to be hired as a full-time employee. The company Taizan was working for went bankrupt. Now he is not only unemployed, but also has to endure prolonged poverty. Standing near the railing, suddenly Taizan's thought flashed, should I jump down? The water surface of the Han River at night is dark and deep, as if it wants to swallow people down there. Before he was about to commit suicide, a voice suddenly came from far away. Wait. Taizan was startled and turned his head to look. Calm down quickly. Urgent voices from the security police rang out. It turned out that a teenager was standing on the edge of the bridge, intending to do something foolish. He shouted, "Don't come here, I will jump." The security police shouted loudly, "I don't care, calm down here, quickly. The days ahead are still long. Why are you thinking like that?" Responding to the police's questioning, the young man hesitated, his expression filled with confusion. He cried speechlessly, his hands clutching the bridge. "Me, really?" His life was over. The young man burst into tears. Clearly he still wanted to live. After being advised, he sobbed for help. The security police reassured him, and he stood up first. Witnessing the scene before his eyes, Taizan's mood was complicated and he sighed in despair. Taizan's heart was troubled, thinking that every day someone threw themselves into the Han River. Taizan thought, even if he jumped down, this life would still be the same. He didn't want to commit suicide anymore. Taizan decided on a new plan, or should he go back to his hometown tomorrow? Taizan's footsteps walked along the bridge towards an unknown direction. Taizan stopped at the red light. Next to him was a boy in a yellow shirt engrossed in playing with his phone. The beeping sound coming from a yellow shirt boy's phone attracted Taizan's attention. Taizan became admiring the boy next to him, thinking to himself, he seems happy, so jealous of him. The red light gradually turns to green. Colors pop up in the dark night. The boy in the yellow shirt walked across the street with his eyes still focused on his phone. Taizan whispered, not even paying attention to the signal. Taizan's thoughts were on the boy in yellow shirt. Kids today are so interesting. Suddenly, the sound of a car horn came from afar, startling Taizan. A car suddenly came. The yellow shirt boy was in danger. Taizan shouted loudly, "Hey!" Tyson stared wide-eyed at the car approaching the yellow shirt boy. That car was going so fast. Like the speed of light, the car rushed forward. Tyson's sweaty forehead glanced at the yellow shirt boy. The boy still calmly dialed his phone and walked on the street without knowing he was in danger. The ear-piercing sound of car horns gradually came closer, signaling the sound of death. The yellow shirt boy, wearing headphones, is still immersed in his world. Seeing that, Tyson couldn't bear it anymore. He couldn't let the boy die. Tyson opened his eyes wide and looked at the scene before him, internally screaming, "Dangerous!" Finally, Tyson shouted with all his might, "It's dangerous, kid!" Combined with his legs, Tyson rushed straight towards the boy, urgently. At the same time, the car was still approaching at the speed of light. The yellow shirt boy only then realized the situation, his face stunned, not knowing what to do. Tyson used all his strength to rush forward, reaching out to push the boy away, putting himself within the car's range. The feeling of death covers all senses. Tyson seems to freeze. The car crashed into Tyson, throwing him away. The feeling of pain rushed in, but Tyson's consciousness was still active. He cursed in pain, "Fuck. So, do I have to die like this? I've never lived a single day of kindness?" In that moment, Tyson could still think about the fact that if after he died from a sexual accident, his parents would receive the insurance money, right? Tyson's consciousness completely disappeared. A voice rang out, "You idiot," completely awakened Tyson. Tyson woke up, surprised by the current situation. "What's going on? Why am I so absent-minded?" Suddenly, an old man with gray hair appeared before his eyes, making Tyson wonder, "Who are you? Why am I floating like this?" Tyson thought he was dead, so it was possible that the old man in front of him was his own dead body. Could it be? "Are you the god of death?" Tyson's words made the old man fall silent. The old man calmly tapped his wooden staff once and said, "I am your ancestor." Tyson was stunned. Ancestors? What? He couldn't believe what the old man just said. The old man shouted angrily, "I made you a descendant of the sky, so I let you wag your tail with the neighbor's dogs like that. They are even bastards who look down on us." Tyson suddenly being scolded hurts my ears. "What are you saying?" The old man raised his hand, his beard and hair blowing in the wind. "Listen carefully. I will grant you a favor." The old man frowned and said, "If you can be revived, don't try to act like a gentleman. Never forgive your enemies or smash them to pieces so they can't raise their heads again." Tyson still didn't understand. He asked again, "What are you talking about?" The old man's eyes twitched as if sparks were emitted. "If you can't do it, I will kill you again, making you die over and over again for 5,000 years. Feeling like falling down, Tyson was scared. "Wait, what are you doing suddenly?" Tyson followed gravity, and his scream filled the air. The louder he shouted, the faster he fell, and Tyson's mind seemed to be turned upside down. The scene of Tyson Road, just hit by a car, appeared before my eyes. About to fall into it again, Tyson screamed in panic, "Didn't you say save me?" Tyson's head hit hard on the stone road. Pieces of stone broke, like Tyson's nerves. The alarm clock rang, a loud sound signaling the morning had come. A hand rushed forward, blocking the sound of the clock, pressing the button to turn off the sound. The feeling of having just died made Tyson unable to adapt. Immediately, he had difficulty opening his eyes. Tyson lay on the bed, eyes wide open in surprise, looking at what was before him. Feeling surprise beyond words, Tyson widened his eyes. "Where is this?" Tyson stood up and looked at the small, old room in front of him. A familiar feeling came over him. Tyson recalls, "One day in August 2020 my head was broken. I was 32 years old at that time. But strangely enough, I am now. Looking in the mirror, I see that I am young again." He looked at the bookshelves. That was the boring life of a man. The mess around the room, the misery of loneliness in adolescence. I looked back in surprise. Oh my God, what was going on? I pinched my face because I couldn't believe it was true that I had just fallen asleep in bed. Spreading his arms in front of his eyes, he saw that he looked toned. It was a photo commemorating the Mid-Autumn Festival in 2006. It's unbelievable, but so cool. Tyson started calculating how old he was. I really couldn't believe that I was 18 years old. He wondered, there's nothing scary about the age of 18 in a person's life. He started to remember the old man from yesterday and thought, so he wasn't lying. He began to remember the memories of 32 years of his life, mixed with joy and sadness resurfacing in his head. Memories are despised by people. The memories of his lover and his colleagues were so vivid that he couldn't even think of them as dreams. Tyson turned quickly to look at the object next to him. That was my high school uniform shirt. He wondered, do I have to go to school? Remembering the scene in the classroom made me sweat. The high school years that linger in his memory are all about playing games with his friends. I feel ashamed of myself when I only sleep in class. He was stunned when he remembered his own academic achievements. His face darkened, and he suddenly remembered something. He found that he remembered all the self-exclaiming tests. Damn, this wasn't a dream, right? He still remembers the law exam. An image of the exam appeared in his mind, and he wanted to take it again. Suddenly dumbfounded, he gasped when he remembered that he used to work in the stock market. With the goal of getting a job at a securities company, he studied for a consulting certificate in 3 types of finance, bonds, treasury, and even derivatives. Not only did he not learn about the Korean stock market index, the Korean electronic stock market, foreign stocks, and stock indexes, he also learned about stocks and financial leverage derivatives. Thinking back, life is not a dream. That alone is not enough. In Taizen's mind, he remembered that old man. Why, he once said, "I will give you a gift." Taizen wondered what gift it was. Something made him come back. Suddenly, a blinding light appeared, making him unable to open his eyes. From that end comes the sound, "Sit down, cross your legs," made him curious as to where it came from. That bright light disappeared, and suddenly a black crow appeared. The old man he met appeared before his eyes again. The scene began to change, and he turned around and asked, "Who are you, and where is this?" He answered and identified himself as the head of Shinsun Hospital, Shun Ryung Shin. Taizen shouted back and asked, "What, the head of Shursun Hospital?" Seeing that he was still far away, he began to angrily shout, "Hurry up and move. This is a practice-breaking curfew. If we are exposed, you will be in trouble." He didn't think much about Shursun Hospital practicing against the precepts or the divine dragon. They were all strange things to him. That old man complimented Taizen on his muscles. "His muscles are good. How can they be like that?" He was surprised to be complimented like that, and replied to his master, "My muscles are good." Suddenly, the old man, with a sinister face, spoke straight to his heart. "Don't watch porn anymore, it'll break your bones." He continued, "Don't keep eating noodles like that, it's very bad for your blood. He started to seriously call you. Close your eyes, let's begin." Taizen was a bit apprehensive. He looked down at the cliff below and felt more afraid to speak to the teacher in front of him. He didn't say what was wrong, but this place looked too dangerous. The old man sitting far away shouted loudly, "You know what the 3 core elements are? Speed, patience, key." He finally agreed to sit down and practice because it sounded convincing. He said it looked like martial arts movies and novels. Hearing that, the old man threatened him, saying that practicing nonsense would hurt his bones. But he thought his master was like a charlatan. It was already late afternoon when it started. "The teacher is behind you." Taizen suddenly started to feel like the powerful heavenly dragon was really behind him. He put his hand on his back and began to teach him. He said, after comprehending the small heavenly cycle and finding that truth himself. Hearing that, he turned around curiously and asked, "How?" "I answered your question, that's all I can say, now let's begin." He began to teach internal techniques to Taizen. He began to feel his inner strength. Power was transmitted to him. At the same time, Taizen thought, "What is that? Why do I hear the sound of waves behind me?" He was gradually feeling the power more clearly. He advised, "Hold back. The more pain you have, the stronger you will be." Taizen could only think in his head with the uncontrollable pain from too much strength in him. This old man, how can I hold back? I'm about to die. His endurance had reached its peak. He just kept giving him all his energy. Taizen's limit has been reached, so strong that all the animals were scared and shocked the whole area. Taizen seemed to gradually lose consciousness. After being taught internal techniques, Taizen felt the miserable feeling that everyone always talked about. His sweat flowed nonstop. The harmful fluids had been expelled from his body, and he was sweating profusely. He writhed in pain, feeling that this old man's Buddhist teachings were burning his nerves. The power that was injected suddenly made me think I was dead. His blood vessels swelled as if they wanted to burn his body, but this old man still did not stop until his body reached its limit, as the old man said. When tears and snot float out of his eyes due to pain, the limit of strength will also multiply with that pain. But that old man still decided to teach me the 5 pearls Tai Chi. 5 pearls Tai Chi are martial arts that only a few people can perform. Returning to reality, Taizen did not expect the power that was given him. He realized that old man, he was not lying. He had understood the 5 pearls of Tai Chi. He remembered the old man's advice. It just looks evil. But in fact, he is an outstanding disciple of the martial arts school. He is also a martial arts expert who fought for 4 days and 3 nights with the leader of the Fat Hoa Sun clan, took his life and received an award in the 3,233rd contest of the Jade Emperor. You think it sounds cool, but who can verify it? Taizen looked back at his clothes. He was really sweaty. He thought, the effect of Buddhist teachings is really great. I have this much sweat in my body. Looking at the calendar hanging on the wall next to the clock, I clearly saw the sunrise and set many times, but the time here still hasn't changed. Standing on the bed, drenched in sweat, he wondered if that was okay, because of the mold on the wall. In the distance, Taizen exclaimed, "Oh my God, look at that wall, it smells of poverty. Look at the network on the table." Next to it is a Celeron 500 system, 6 gigabytes RAM, for megabytes graphics, 10 gigabytes hard drive. There is also pirated software on the computer. Taizen was quite surprised. It looked like something from a museum. He felt and smelled the nauseating scent coming from the room. The room was extremely messy, and there was a smell of sweat on the bed when he was infused with internal energy, so he decided to clean it out first. Suddenly, there was a call. Taizen came down to eat breakfast. The familiar calls in his subconscious he remembered from his mother. Every time she called him, "Taizen, come down for breakfast. You have to eat breakfast." He thought, even though I had heard these words my whole life, I still felt warm now. My mother was the only person who was by my side, even if I failed or lost my job. He began to remember his mother. Perhaps his emotions were indescribable. In his mind, he recalled the days with his mother, the memories of the days when she texted him to tell him to eat enough meals. In his memories, his mother often said, "Don't eat noodles and fast food all the time. You have to eat well, son." Returning to reality, she was urging him, "Hurry up. The soup is about to get cold." Taizen quickly said, "Yes, Mom. Let me take a shower first." He quickly walked into the bathroom and took off his clothes. Looking at his strong and toned body in the mirror, he was surprised and asked himself, "Am I already this tall?" Laughing reluctantly, he was extremely surprised, and surprised as if he couldn't believe his eyes. Rinsing the cool water from the faucet made Taizen feel more refreshed. He wondered if his body had been purified. Immersing in the cool water slowly feels so relaxing. Looking in the mirror, he was quite surprised and happy, because his skin was also smoother. Peaceful scenery, clear blue sky. Taizen walked downstairs. He had just finished bathing, so he could feel the comfort and coolness. Taizen, wrapped in a towel and drying his hair, suddenly stared into the distance. Before his eyes appeared gardening tools, and this was the garden where his mother always worked hard. There's also his father's old tractor. This is a house that has been passed down from ancestors for 10 generations, so it is quite old. For those reasons, he lives in the countryside. It felt like he hadn't come in to eat for a long time and was standing still like a man, so his mother asked, "What's wrong?" Taizen turned back to answer, "Yes," hesitantly continued, "I just thought the weather was so beautiful today." At the same time, she brought out a fully and thoughtfully set dining table. She kindly smiled at him and told him to eat quickly. "It's about to get cold." Thinking back to my mother, who had to work every morning in the orchard, she looked so haggard. However, she was always the most beautiful mother in my middle school parents' association. Thinking of my mother, Taizen couldn't hold back his emotional tears. His eyes began to well up, yes, to his mother. Unable to contain his emotions, he immediately rushed to hug her. Seeing her son suddenly act like that was so different from usual, she also suddenly said, "What's wrong with this guy? He's already so big and still alive." Taizen called out with tears in his eyes, "Mom, you are the most beautiful in the world. You are as beautiful as a fairy." She was also very panicked and asked, "Why is it suddenly like that? Why am I crying?" That kind and gentle woman, she graduated from Hanjin University of Fine Arts, where only excellent artists in Korea can study. Her mother once said that before she got married, she had never touched a piece of grass. Yet, my mother, as a farmer, she heard her son's words and smiled happily and said, "Oh my God, it seems that in this world, we are not the only ones who are blind." Taizen continued to sob and said, "Although Mom is still healthy, don't try too hard. The more you see that Mom doesn't look like a rural woman at all." She patted her son a little shyly and said, "Stop it, there must be farmers so everyone can have food to eat." Taizen exclaimed to his mother, "Why are you so lucky? Did you sell your country in your previous life?" She smiled happily and said, "This guy." She became happy. Her kind face smiled brightly in response to her son's words. Surely, her mother was a princess who betrayed her country. Tyson thought to himself that it's been a long time since he's seen his mother smile. Hugging his mother, feeling the warmth from her, Tyson thought to himself, Mom, from now on, I will let you walk on a path full of flowers. After a while, seeing him hugging so tightly, his mother said, Son, if you love me so much, why don't you eat more? Hearing that, he quickly let go and apologized, hugging his mother without asking his father's permission. Hearing that sentence, she laughed loudly and said, You're right, your father's jealousy is not the normal type. Then he and his mother sat down to eat at a daesan booth. Along with the cool breezes, the scent of hot food rises. Tyson began to invite his mother to eat. It had been a long time since he had felt like that. Compared to what he had experienced, this was truly a precious meal. He ate deliciously and thought to himself, if I don't reincarnate, I won't be able to feel this again. I just brought in a spoonful of food, but he was so quick to praise me, my armpits hurt. Mom, it's spicy and fresh. It's okay for drunk people to eat it. Why don't you open a restaurant instead of working as a farmer? If my mother opened a bean soup restaurant, it would be as expensive as hotcakes. She asked him again, Today you still know how to get drunk. Did you secretly drink alcohol from Mom? Mom, I'm an adult. Why didn't I know? She knocked his head and smiled, saying, You joke a lot like your father. Tyson recalls that when he was in college, he was a notorious drunkard. But when he's young again, I'm just a young man who doesn't know the smell of alcohol in his head. He can only think to himself, and in front of his eyes, his mother is angrily warning him not to touch alcohol. Looking far away, he suddenly saw a mouse running past. Also remember the oldness of the objects in the kitchen and the house. To the living room and the old TV, wondering why our family is so poor. Look at that little mouse. Staring at it, he realized, we must get out of this situation. We cannot continue like this forever. Tyson thought, I have to make money.